Good morning everyone. I just had the microphone on mute. Fooled myself. At least I didn't talk for 15 minutes like I've done in the past once or twice. And I didn't look at the chat and everyone's screaming at me, your microphone's not working. All right, let's pop the chat out so I can see it properly in the middle of the screen. If anyone wants to ask me a sensible question, if you're live here on the stream, on the right in the live chat comments, put a whole bunch of brightly colored emojis just so I can see you. Hey to all the regulars and the members. Vero, Schlitzmalz, Lika. David, Donna, Boston Guy, Sean, all the rest. Boffin, how are you? Rocket Scientist, Karu, yada yada. Feral Android, how are you? August Lion. All right. All the regulars are here. That's good. All right. As always, discussing the recent videos this week. I popped out 2 quick ones this week. Sometimes it's really hard to get things out, and it's a combination of life getting in the way. It's a combination of life getting in the way, and sometimes it's about the topic itself. It takes a long time to put it together. Some videos are like, they come out pretty easily and the editing is easy. And then some of them, it's like, slogging through mud, through wet concrete while you're blindfolded. Okay. For the nerds, as always, the camera is a GH5 using a Leica 12mm f1.4. Microphone is a Samsung Q9U running through a Rodecaster Pro. And the coffee is coffee pods from Aldi. All right, I thought it was an interesting topic, the last video. I talked about it with Karu and I think 1 or 2 of the guys in a discussion on Discord. And 1 or 2 people in my real life as well. And the main issue is trust, right? So the response women always give to, the unfairness, when you kind of just try and talk about the unfairness, like, look, how are you supposed to, like, human beings want to get together to trust each other. But if everything, including our attitudes, our awful attitudes, our unfair attitudes where we use each other, negate trust, how are you supposed to get what you want? And all these people that are complaining about, like, oh, women did this, men did this. But if you're acting really unconscionable in the way that gets rewarded out there, this is the thing that's always saddened me out there, is that the worst kind of behavior, the business type of behavior where it's just, oh, well, it's just business. I prospered, I took stuff from them. I fooled people. And technically it was within the law, but I was acting immoral. And I heard it a lot while I was sort of out with the guys dating when I was younger. And it said a lot about someone's character, where you'd hear women saying, oh yeah, this loser, he was after me, or he did this, or I prospered in this way. And they'll laugh and say, well, if the idiot was too dumb to see it, then he deserved what he got. And I always thought that was awful. It's like you're taking advantage of someone's stupidity, or more than likely someone's naivety and trust, saying that they deserve to be taken advantage of. because they're too blind to see what's in front of them. I think that's a coward's excuse. I've seen a lot of, from my point of view, I've seen a lot of women, because they tend to be passive by default, if they can see a situation to prosper, they don't say anything, they take the opportunity, and then later on, that's their excuse to get over, the demons in their head, where they don't actually feel that they're a bit ashamed, where it's like, yeah, I didn't act well, but they kind of all of a sudden, their mental hamster wheel tries to look for something to alleviate the bad feelings. Like, well, if they were too dumb to see it, it's not my fault. I wouldn't have been that stupid. So, it's a really pathetic excuse. You take advantage of someone, you know it, and your excuse is, well, anyone with half a brain wouldn't have allowed themselves to be taken advantage of. And the erosion of trust is the thing. How are you supposed to even have good friends if you can't trust them? If you can't trust anyone, and, if you distill everything down to the end, like, the real truth is you can't trust anyone completely, even your parents or whatever. Like, there's always like conditional love. Like, if someone does something so egregious, they might want to continue to trust you, but they just can't. You've shown them that you did something horrific that they cannot trust you anymore with. There's a great saying I always remember, and I don't remember who said it. Someone very smart. And it's, I'm not upset that you lied to me. I'm upset that I can't trust you anymore. And I think that speaks volumes. We can talk about trust and this and game and all these like little complicated, clever things. But when we erode trust between people, like, I look at the friends I've made on my channel, the friends in real life, and I'm really grateful and I really value them. And I can sort of see the history of trust built up over time. And when, say, someone says to me, well, you might have known this person for a few years, and they may have been consistent through all this time, but you never know. And look, they're not wrong, but are they correct? Are they ostensibly and generally, given all the evidence, are they correct? I would say no. If the person has been consistent with your trust, whatever your standards of trust are, then I think that's the best way to go about life. How can you do anything better? Seriously. You can sort of be the nihilistic, well, you can't trust anyone, we're all going to perish one day up ahead, nothing's worth anything, don't put any effort in. It's kind of like, it's a very simplistic approach to life where you may as well not even be here, really. Why were you born? If you're not going to dance in the best way possible to feel alive, to have good relationships as best you can in this moment, what's the point, really? All the clever people out there that I can't negate, that I can't tell the future, so they might be wrong. So they might be right. But like I said, if you have trusted someone over and over again over the years, they've never contradicted themselves, they've earned their trust with you, whether it's a friend or if it's a lover, your wife or family members or whatever. You've got standards, you've got boundaries. Yeah, love is conditional. If they do something egregious where it's kind of like, Christ, I never in a million years would have expected them to not just do this, but do this against me and righteously against me and think that they're in the right. Like, that's a very, like, I think if you trust someone over time with your eyes open, you've done the best you can, like you talk with them, everything's out in the open, it's very unlikely this person's going to be an actor for years and years and years. And if they are, like, what's the likelihood you're going to be fooled by a genuine sociopath that has been acting for years just so they can betray you later? That's kind of Hollywood stuff. It is possible, but those kind of people are very, very rare. TJ, thank you very much for the super chat donation. He says, love the content, human, appreciate you. Thanks, man. I appreciate the donation. So one thing I'm always spitballing in my videos is not just how to think better and to express ourselves and live better lives, but there's no point complaining about what's not right, what's not calibrated properly in your life, if we don't also talk about how to turn those dials to get them working better so that we as individuals, so I can have a better life with my friends, with lovers, with my family, like with my weekly and daily routines in my life, my work, what the choices I make, the habits I have. If it's not working, change them, get rid of them, adjust the dials, make them work better, balance those scales better. And I think we can get too clever and lazy where we make it so black and white. And the black and white areas, life rarely exists in the black and white, it's the nuance. And one of the questions I posed was this one about if someone cheated on you. The common one is, well, you shouldn't have slept with her. And the poll is, if you found out that a family member or a good friend was cheated on, what would you do? It's never black and white. This is what I think keeps us mentally alive and also keeps us always exercising and sharpening our values, morals, and our ethics. It's an organic thing that's always front and center, and we're always taking care of it. It's like our health. This is your mental health you're taking care of. We can have a routine of always paying attention to our food and exercising and whatever, but I think mentally, our choices and our morals, we should be always having conversations with good people in our lives that we value and we trust, because they've earned our trust, and likewise, hopefully, you're doing the same to other people too. This was an interesting poll I put a couple of days ago. If you found out that the family member or someone, basically someone close in your life, was being cheated on, you saw it, or say you suspected it, what would you do? A great percentage would say you tell them right away. I'm more in the camp of I would confront the cheater first. But again, that would be contextual. If I don't know these people, they don't mean a lot to me, I'm of the belief that people should be able to solve their own problems. I can support them if they ask for my help, but if they don't, I'd leave it be. But for the very close people in my life, I would confront the cheater. But it's not always clear cut. There were some interesting comments, and I'll read some of them. Let me pull this up. Raphael says, I've seen that before. Without any evidence, don't even bother to say something. Fine. That guy Pete you refused to invite to gathering says, confront the cheater and give them one chance to come clean. If they fail, I speak. Outside of family and close friends, it's none of my business. Yep, exactly what I just said. These are my ethics on the topic. Wayne Figgity says, tell them if they find out you knew and did nothing, how can they trust you? Good point. Also, if they cut contact with you over it, do you really need that type of person in your life? Yes. Again, it says something about the person. Vanez says, by telling them, you assume that they'll appreciate hearing the truth and that they need it as much as you do in life. Yeah. You need to, again, have that ability not to be black and white, that rules apply across the board. This one-size-fits-all paradigm that a lot of people want, that ultimate safety, the ultimate rule book, I would suggest these people sort of get religious and get away from philosophy. But anyway, yeah, you need to know the person you're dealing with, astute enough to know their character, and will they appreciate it? If you know that they won't, then don't tell them. And there's also tactful ways of, maybe if you want to be a good friend, directness might not be a good thing for this person. Again, you need to not just know yourself, but know the people you're dealing with, because they are part of your world, or yourself, if you want to look at it that way. Chris, namaste. He had an interesting point that I wanted to relay. He said, I would not confront, but have a hypothetical conversation with the person who was cheating. Depending on the outcome, I would then decide what to do next. Do not interfere, wait and observe, and or have a discussion with the family friend member. I think the bull in China shop approach is very counterproductive. Yes, This is an interesting one. Have this hypothetical conversation with the cheating person, saying, "Yeah, you know what? One of my friends, I caught them cheating, and I really think they should come clean and blah blah blah," and just look at their face. That's an interesting one. Again, it's game playing. I'm not a big fan of this. I don't like indirect game playing because women do this all the time. But in this situation where it's not your life, but you want to help, and really, if you didn't say anything, it's really not your problem. Like, all things considered, it's not your problem. Unless it's someone directly in your life that you're always with. But generally, like, if it's game playing, this is about the only time I would say this is very productive, where you can help in a covert way. Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I think it's a reason why I wanted to pose this question. Jared said the first thing I thought was that I wouldn't say anything until I had sufficient evidence. Then I realized I'm free to decide who is in my life, particularly my friends. I'd make clear that they should tell me if I was cheated on. Yeah, I'm the same way. I would want people close to me to tell me. But there are tactful and civil ways to say these things. And I think a friend would know how to tell you, and you would be able to take it in the right way from the friend if they were not being rude. I'd make it clear that they should tell me. Yeah, I would actually be the same way. And that these relationships are reciprocal. I think lacking this honesty shows a deep flaw in your friendships. I agree. Chromatic Dragon, female in my sub, says, I wanted to put her comment here because it was interesting. She said, tell them, confront the cheater, and paste their behavior on every social media I can. I wanted to paste this because this is what a woman would do. Like, not all women, but they kind of... women can have their heart in the right place and be very righteous, but I've always suspected this, that men like just... what's the saying that I came up with long ago was that justice is male, revenge is female. And this kind of thing, like, let's publicly shame the cheater. I would say, again, what gives you the right to do this to a person? And what if you're wrong? You know, some of the people said that you might see something and it's 100% sure that the person was cheating. What if this couple has a weird open relationship? What if you saw the wrong thing? I don't know. Say you're 100, like you think you're more than 100% sure. What if you confront them and they say, I don't care, and you better not tell my partner? Again, what gives you the right to now take control of their relationship, blast it out there in front of everyone, and you be the person that says, well, I was doing the right thing. But you really don't have any skin in the game, and you're actually taking control of their life. I know what your heart's in the right place, like in terms of morals, Chromatic Dragon, but that part about plastering their behavior on social media, I would disagree with that strongly. What's the impulse that you would want to do that? I mean, what does it say about you? Mary Sue Boomer says, well, that's really hard. Depends on how much you care about that particular person. I mean, if someone was stealing money from them on a regular basis or trespassing, I would inform them. It's very interesting. If they're not being cheated on, but someone's stealing from them, then you would. It's really interesting how right and wrong has this nuance when it's got to do with money, when it's got to do with... I suppose it's more clear cut. Everyone would appreciate you telling them, like, yeah, this person's stealing from me. But relationships are so vague depending on the particular person. And it's exactly the reason I keep telling people, make it personal, know what you want, speak up, and be very, very intimate about your intimate personal relationships. Because trying to organize them like distally, like as cookie cutter that we all agree on. Men are like this, women are like this, relationships should be like this, no cheating, yes cheating, only in this circumstance, you can't do this, you can do this, we want kids, you don't, like, you need to know what makes your life tick. Yeah, but that's an interesting one. If someone was stealing money from your friend on a regular basis, would you tell them? If someone was trespassing, I think that's a judgment call based on how well you know the person and the person being cheated on or cheated with. I agree. Linda says, I would find some opportunity to get their attention in a supportive and private context. Then I disclose what I know or have found out exactly as I understand it to be. See, this is the tactful way. You can always, and this is, I would be similar, impart it sort of with a light touch. Don't be accusatory. Just sort of say what you've seen, and this is all I know, but I just felt like I had to tell you. She continues, you can never assume cheating as you don't know the precise terms of their relationships, but you can delicately disclose some knowledge and that you're concerned for them. Then leave it with them to handle it. Well done. This is exactly kind of how I would approach things. No judgment about what they do, if anything. Just focus on being their friend and trying and try turning to something positive. If the cheater was closer to me as a friend, I might express concern to them, but not to their partner. I will tell them that if they want it to stay secret, I don't want to hear another word about it, and I would reject discussing it with them at all, except with a view to ending it, mending their relationship. Yeah, and also, if they're fine with it and it goes against your principles, I would say, and I'm speaking for me, I would see them very differently. And I would compartmentalize my trust on that friend from now on, depending on that issue. Because if it's very diametrically opposed to my views on cheating, and they see it very differently to me, if all things considered, it's not going to affect my life, I would not really trust them in that compartment with life anymore, because now I see how they are with it. Thomas says the first impulse is to tell them right away, but that is too simplistic. Since you don't know how functional or dysfunctional their relationship is, and assuming both are fully fledged individuals capable of making decisions, I would suggest to influence the least amount possible right then and there. Confronting the cause is a polite but assertive way. Yeah, it comes down to, this stuff takes nuance. Personal relationships take nuance. So see how difficult it is to answer this question. Would you speak up? And then think about how much more seriously we should take our own ethics and values in relationships, and how we should adjust our dials to be right for us now, how we interact, who we speak to, who we choose, who we don't choose, who we hold at a distance, who we bring close, who we invite home, who we introduce to family and friends, who we say I love you to, when you say I love you, what does it mean to you? Do you reserve it only after a certain level of trust that you know, or that you know as best you can given your standards of trust, things like that. So if just a hypothetical about a cheater and doing the right moral thing, it really lets us know if that's important to us. What are your standards about yourself, or are we really blasé with ourselves? It suggests to me that we should really know what our answers to these questions should be. So the cheater one, it's a tricky one, isn't it? What about a very ostensibly simple one? What's your type? What are your standards for love? You can't be, it's relative. The relativism gets us led around and screwed over. We can't be relative. Of course, we're not going to be perfect all the time, but as perfect as we can be and hold firm that steering wheel of our morals to do with ourselves, not other people. Again, you can not tell them. It's not your life at the end of the day. No one's really going to say you're not being moral because it's not your life. But in your life, if you're too relative in your own decisions, other people who are not, they're very black and white. They're very, very, they're very ruthless and narcissistic today. They'll take advantage of you and they won't see a thing wrong with it. So you need to be you need to be very particular about your standards. Again, we're not perfect. I'm not either, but we can't be blasé about it. All right. Rocket scientist says, a human, doesn't love just happen to men also, especially those of us with little experience? Yes, that's a good point. But after once or twice, you've had your lived experience, you've had your real life experiment. It's not just theory. It's not just all the guys agree on the right moral code on paper. You've actually been living in it. You've jumped in that pool and now you know how you feel about it. Experience does help a lot. And yeah, love doesn't just happen to guys. Yeah. Again, it's just the reality. Like, it's all theory until it happens to you. There's some luck involved. Like, your first experience could ruin you for the rest of your life. Yeah, Donna mentioned something interesting, a comment under one of the polls that, no, one of the questions I posed in the members section. She said to take a look into the male birth control pill. From what she says, and she works professionally in this area much more than I do, that it's come a way in terms of being available. And that's interesting. If it becomes available for guys, and I think she was posing, which guys are going to want to test it. I'd say there would be a lot of guys. If they're about to take the choice of vasectomy, and if it's actually been tested, I mean, like a lot of these things, they're tested, and once the testing process, there's always people willing to do tests on this stuff. Especially, say, guys who, say, like me, never wanted kids ever, and are kind of a bit iffy. I was always a bit iffy about surgery. I never liked having surgery if it wasn't actually critical. But I always knew I never wanted to have kids. In hindsight, if I could go back, say, 15 to 20 years, I'd probably get a vasectomy, having sort of had my brain now. But I never liked surgery, the idea of surgery. It wasn't specifically about the vasectomy thing. But it's very interesting how many young guys now in their early 20s, they are going forward with vasectomies, absolutely certain or scared to death of what women could do to them. Charles, thank you very much for the super chat donation. His comment is, I had a house bought underneath me in secret by soon-to-be ex-wife. She worked with her mother, who stole hundreds or thousands of dollars from her years before. Someone betrayed doesn't make them faithful. Yeah, look, there's no guarantees in life, but again, what do you do? Live a cold, desensitized life with yourself only in four walls in complete safety, which is a way to go. I don't begrudge any guy who says, like, no, I don't want to take that risk anymore, especially if they've been burnt in a really bad way, or they've got a very, very low tolerance for risk. I'm okay with calculated risks, where I look at the situation, take my time, and make an informed decision where I want to make the calculated risk based on the benefits that I want out of it. A lot of stuff, I gave the example of businesses. 9 out of 10 businesses fail, but a lot of guys still go ahead with it, even if it could ruin their lives and they could lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. I would say the chances of the problems that most guys are experiencing with the average women out there going in blindfolded, if you don't go in blindfolded, if you go into relationships and taking your time and earning trust and doing it the best way possible, again, no guarantees, but in the same business-like fashion, but still in a humanistic approach where they need to earn your trust over time, then you got the best chance possible. Again, no guarantees, but if you're having a mentally hard life, being a concerned with absolute safety, there's something to be said, and I can attest to this, something to be said about having a little bit of courage and patience to sort of trust someone over time. You're still being as rational as possible and sure they could betray you in the future, friends or lovers. But if you go to great lengths to see consistent trust exhibited over time, where you say, like, well, either this person's a really good actor or a sociopath, that 0.00 whatever % of the world that are born that way, or if I'm going to take any kind of calculated safe risk, there's nothing more this person can do. Like, I have to dip my toe and see trust them a bit now, you know, let them in a little bit, pay attention. Look, I've noticed this with guys where I say, okay, let's point to this couple there. They've been married for 20 years. You talk to them, they love, they trust each other, blah, blah, blah. The way they talk, they're intentionally loving each other, and they're really skilled at loving each other, and they're out in the open about everything. So the chance for betrayal to hide somewhere is very low. And some guys could say, well, they're lucky. Well, are they really? Look at the way they talk and how they act, and they're completely open and honest, and they're risking everything in plain open sight to each other. If you're going to risk, that's the safest kind of calculated risk you're going to do. And simply just to say, well, they're lucky, it's all luck, I don't believe it. And I think deep down, a lot of people who are, even if you're kind of like a STEM-based mathematical person, if you look at equations, if someone goes about things the best way possible, is it luck? Or are they making their luck as much as they can, if you know what I mean? All those stats out there, the half of marriages end in divorce, and 80% of women file for divorce and stuff. You look at the average person, the dumb, drunk, bimbo, Chad kind of idiots out there, these stats apply to them because they're just kind of getting drunk and just going with the flow. Honestly, if you don't act the way the majority act, if you're as responsible for yourself as you can and the choices you make, those mistakes, those statistics affect you dramatically less. And the logical people among you should recognize, yeah, that's true. And before you let yeah, but come in the equation, the higher standard you hold yourself in the choices you make and the people you interact with, and speaking up and saying no and getting rid of people who are abusing you and taking advantage of you, your life will be much more hygienic. Hit the like button, guys. Subscribe. Join. Karu says, the art of living unfolds. Are doing it. I don't get what that means. Regardless of good or bad choices. For some, it's a tragedy. For some, it's an opera. All choices are valid. Yeah, the art of how you go about living your life is really underrated. Everyone wants to take the art out of it. And let's not forget, the personal relationships, they're all art. That's all about how you're sort of drawing that line or splashing that paint. And like, it's so subjective. There are some objective things. Like I said, you don't jump out of an airplane without a parachute. That is ridiculous. Sorry, I should stop playing with this. It's probably clicking and clacking in the microphone. But yeah, I think people use perfect safety as an excuse not to enjoy life as much as they want. And if you don't want to enjoy life to that extent where you take calculated risk, good for you. But laughing at people that want to take calculated risk, and especially like if you own it, it's like, yeah, I went into this eyes open. I shouldn't have done it. Lesson learned. But the best way to live life is not always the absolute safest way to live life, especially if you can go about things to mitigate the risks to a huge degree. If I really want something in life, if you're one of these guys who wants to get married or have kids, right? So let's put the kids. If you go about it the best way and you pick certain types of women, yes, they can all betray you. Yes, women have female nature. Yeah, I've heard it all before. But if you know that life is relatively dull, boring, and meaningless unless you try, and don't forget what trying, how that kind of really invigorates the human condition and the quality of your life when it works out. Not if, but when, if you go about it the right way, the adult way, the responsible way, it could not work out. You could be a fool. But in the end, if you tried with your eyes open, you can't really look back and say, yeah, I was drunk. I jumped without looking. You jumped while looking. You had your eyes open. This person betrayed you, but you wanted kids. You know, what are you going to do? Not live the life you want just for safety so you can be online and, yeah, we're all the best. We're safe. While the so-called lucky people out there are taking calculated risks. Remember, guys, if you want to ask a question, put a whole bunch of brightly colored emojis before your question so I know it's a question directed to me. Like, subscribe, and join, guys. Roman, how are you? Roman says, good morning, my fellow Melburnian. I had a beautiful dream last night that you and I were on a starlight dinner, looking into each other's eyes, talking about cameras and microphones. Are you that way inclined, Roman? Black Wizard says, never believe the words she says. Watch out for the actions and the contradictions in the story she tells. That's right. Observe the actions. Don't believe the story they tell you, especially at the start. See if what they say matches how they act over time. Be convinced with your own eyes, with your own ears, with your own mind, taking note over time like a scientist if you want. And then at the end, when you really you see no shadow of a doubt that you can't trust her to an extent that you're comfortable, why wouldn't you? I think if you don't, you're being fearful. I'm not saying you need to trust him completely. Have your standards. But you can't padlock the parts of your life that like your instincts are wanting you to enjoy, but fear is the only thing stopping you. And a lot of the irrationality can overcome the fear. Like, for instance, the birth control thing. Can you trust her to be on birth control? Unsurprisingly, I gathered since most of the guys that we talk about these topics of being able to navigate women and most women out there are not trustworthy, and they just find lying normal. It's part of the drama women are used to from growing up around their female friends, high school friends. They play these psychological games. Women are great at psychological games as a survival mechanism. They're built with it, and lying to them isn't lying. It's just a way of getting through life and being safe and not being taken advantage of and stuff. You know, women have psychological manipulation. Men have brute strength. We're kind of direct that way. But yeah, can you trust her on birth control? I wanted to make it very general, the question. Obviously, there's nuance. If you've been with someone for 5 to 10 years, you're married, if they show you their birth control that they're taking all the time to alleviate your trust. This is the other thing, because I was with an ex once where she could tell I didn't trust her, and I had good reason not to trust her because a lot of things didn't add up. This is the pay attention to what they say as opposed to how they act. So when I sort of said, I don't want to ever be a father, I'm scared to death of having that life, being a father, and it's not necessarily you, it's about that thing. I have an issue with it. So me being concerned, it's got to do with the thing itself. But she just took it personally. It's like, you don't trust me, you don't trust me, but they don't see it from your point of view. And it really was evident to me that if someone cares for you, they care about what your fears are, what you're concerned about, and they want to alleviate your fears. If a person doesn't care about your fears, your safety, they don't want to wrap their arms around you, they don't really want to empathize, and it's just about them. It's like, well, you should just trust me, I'm offended. It's like, well, this relationship is only about what you want. You don't care that I'm trying to put it as softly as possible. I am scared of this thing. I need for you to show me, because this thing, it's like being arachnophobic. Someone saying, well, you're being stupid. Like, it's just a spider. It's like, this is how I feel about it. I really need a lot of help to take baby steps to trust this thing. So I think someone in the comment section also said that you should be able to say to your partner, well, show me the birth control, because if you want me to be comfortable and trust you with this thing, I need to see it. I need to earn the trust with you, because I have a really big thing about this issue. And if the women pull the I'm offended card right away, that is blackmail to me. I feel blackmailed if I'm saying, I'm worried about this thing. I've just met you. That's kind of really strong-arming a person. And I would suggest it reveals their character, because if you're trying to say it as nicely as possible, like, I have an issue, it's more their problem. This is part of knowing what you stand for and being able to speak well and politely and maturely to people. You can still get what you want, and then you can reveal the people that really you shouldn't trust. Because that to me shows me that, okay, you want me to trust you, you're trying to force me, you're making me pull away even further. If I did trust you one step forward today, you're blackmailing me and shaming me for it, and giving me an ultimatum has making me take a step back. I'm back at zero. I'm actually further back at zero. Like, I trust a stranger on the street more than I trust you the way you're treating me, and the way you're not taking my concerns into consideration. Okay, I'm looking for the questions. David says, are queer women good to have as friends? I'd say any friend is good regardless of their gender, but it's based on their values. I don't agree that you think, oh, just because I'm safe, they're not going to take advantage of me in the courts like a lover would, that you tolerate immoral behavior. Because I see a lot of women with especially middle-aged and older women, they've got gay friends, and they laugh and they join in the pain. Like, a lot of these people, they get off on making fun of people, but it's like, it says a lot about your character. So if the person's actually a decent person, I don't think it matters. But if you give yourself license to make fun of people and just say, well, where you feel like, oh, it's the same as me going on a trip to Morocco. Like, I'm being part of this culture. I'm laughing and eating and doing as they do. It's not my fault. No, this is moral behavior. If you don't agree with the way their ethics and morals are, if they're really, really bad, and you feel like you can join in laughing, yeah, and I've seen that quite a bit. It sort of makes me, it calls into the other person's character, makes it suspect for me. Sarcastic Bunny says, life is full of risks. Even doing nothing is a risk. What you're comfortable with determines your choices. Otherwise, you're just going through the motions. Yep. Well put. It's a good comment. I just pinned it. Do women not have heroes' journeys because they don't want to display courage? I would say that's a big component. Women are concerned a lot with safety, whereas a guy will take that calculated risk to get much more out of life. your nature as a male and a female, as well as how you're conditioned when you're young, and then by society in a large part afterwards, contributes to that. So the quality of your life is largely determined by how consciously you want to take the handles now and be responsible for fine-tuning your ethics, listening to people, speaking up, not staying silent, but expressing your thoughts as clearly and as honestly as possible so you feel righteous in a very golden rule kind of relating to people well kind of way. You know, I'm always trying to do that. I'm not trying to be dogmatic in my videos or the way I speak to people. I mean, Karu would attest to this. I'm sometimes a bit too even-handed, but I don't like forcing people to my point of view. I want to be a better person, but at the same time, I want to have my boundaries where someone doesn't take advantage of me or walk all over me. So that's just me. But how you conduct yourself is the primary for me. David P says, I'd rather take a calculated risk and have it backfire than sit on the sidelines and wonder what if. Regret is a bitter pill to swallow, especially when you get older. All the things you haven't done. As soon as you feel like, you know, you're going through the motions, as was just kind of said by Sarcastic Bunny, no matter your age, start being more honest and start taking calculated risks. I would offer, if there's any advice, not reckless, but where you want to get, you're going to get a lot more if you just kind of get over your fear. It's not being reckless, it's get over irrational fear and just, if the worst that's going to happen is you're going to skin your knee, do it. If you're going to feel a bit of discomfort, do it. But if your life is going to be ruined and you're being reckless, don't do it. I wouldn't encourage you. But yeah, I don't think women have hero's journey because, especially today, they're coddled. They just don't have any consequences. Why would they want to risk or be brave? Women say I'm brave, sisterhood, all this kind of garbage. They're not. They're being coddled. They're wrapped in cotton wool today. No matter what they do, it's never their fault. There's never any reason to blah, blah, blah a woman. Yeah, enjoy your childish life. Why can't I find a man? Because you're a child. That's why. Any man is not going to deal with you. You're going to find a lot of boys out there that you keep complaining about simply because you're a girl. Lone says, women do not have a hero's journey because they already have innate value. Yeah. Why go on the journey where I'm born with having gone on the journey and I'm wonderful? Like, guys see themselves as Perseus going on a quest, whereas women see themselves born as Aphrodite or Zeus in a dress. Santa says, human, should you always ask for a paternity test? If you're asking for a paternity test, that says a lot about your relationship too. Yeah, David P says, people say a lot, so I watch what they do. Yeah. Consistency of behavior and never really contradicting what they tell you through their behavior, and they just keep repeating the same kind of things, even if it's verbally. They keep repeating their values in the same or similar ways, and they never kind of flip and do a 180 one day. Okay. Karu says to me, "You're the only man who can be elegantly pissed off." Well, look, everyone's got and I'm not saying like there's parts of me where I'm too accommodating. I've said to Karu before that I wish I had his, acerbic limits sometimes, where kind of he's got a shorter fuse and it's exactly the right thing to do, whereas I need to deliberate, chew on it a bit more. It takes me a while to get to the same point, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. For instance, it's bad for me where I waste too much time with the wrong kind of people or being mistreated. But then at the same time, I could see where people are very quick to anger or cut people off. And then later on, it's going like, I jumped the gun again. I was too quick. I was impulsive. I'm not impulsive. My nature, I'm not an impulsive person. On stuff that doesn't matter, like, yeah, I'll buy a really cheap secondhand lens. If it was $800 and I always wanted that lens and I see it in great condition and it's like $100 or $50, like, yeah, impulsive. I don't need it. It's a great deal. I'm a low risk kind of guy. So that's why with me, I had to consciously and rationally condition myself to take more calculated risk to get the things that I want out of life. Wandering Wombat, thank you for the super chat donation. I appreciate it. Let's see what other people said about. Yep, this one. About this question, can you trust her on birth control? Feral Android said, if you can't trust her with that simple issue, I shouldn't be sleeping with her. That's another thing. If you treat every woman, like if you consider if you don't feel good about the person you're with and you've just picked someone on paper, they're good, they're pretty, we get along, she doesn't put me down. It's not just about what she's not. Does she have anything that would engender trust over time? If she's like a 0 and it never moves, and you keep having to hold her as every woman's standards, then it's like, if you can't trust her with anything, why the hell would you even introduce her to your family? Why would you even move in with her? You have to hold that woman so far away from you that it's not intimate anymore. Again, what kind of intimacy do you want with this person? Or are you just wasting time having 10% of the relationship that you want? If she doesn't have 90% of what you really would like to feel more of to bring her closer, stop wasting your time. I've said it before. I've dated like almost all, I'd say 90% of my serious relationships in the past, they were all great people. I liked them. They were good people. But we weren't compatible on an intimate level where I could bring them closer in that large way where I couldn't in the past. Yeah, on paper, she's a good enough girlfriend. We get along, we spend time, we go here and there, but it's kind of like very low level. It's like your world's in black and white with them. And it doesn't mean that they need to entertain you in color all the time, but you feel as interested in life and you've got your autonomy and things are great in the same way that I can enjoy my time alone. I can go visit my family and friends, and just life is just generally animated and it's got color in it. If I don't feel that way with a person, if it's just kind of clinically on paper, yeah, we're respectful, we're good people, but we're not compatible and we want different things in life, but we give each other space, it's just a very formal relationships that you're saying, well, it's a lot better than what's out there, so I'm going to commit to this. I would say you're better off just having a part-time relationship with this person, being very open and honest about it, rather than pretending it's something it's not. Don't say, I love you, or in a way that, you want it to be. Some people want something to be something and it's not. A lot of people want to get healthy, but they don't. They buy all the right equipment, they take out the gym membership, they run through the motions, but they're not acting in a habitual fashion that's honest, that makes them get those feelings out of that lifestyle. Your relationship, whether it's with things or people, gentlemen and ladies. Savvy D, thank you for the super chat donation. His or her comment is, I've been sharing your women's stories videos and everyone I've shared it with says it's spot on, makes complete sense. Great job, mate. Thanks, Savvy. Thanks for subscribing and being part of the channel. Thanks to the rest of you guys. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The thing that kind of really drives me forward is not just that you guys continue to watch the videos, and yeah, fair enough, YouTube has like stalled my channel for the last year and a half or so. But I just love the growth of you guys in the comments section, like sharing your stories, really mentoring the people that come in, working things out with your different life experiences. And like, I'll make a video on my life experiences and what I think on a topic, but then you guys inject something with like, holy crap, that was a great point of view. And that only comes about when you guys share stuff like this. So hats off to you. The thing I'm most proud of, I love making my videos because I love the creative process and I love editing and sort of using it as a diary. But what I'm most proud of that I didn't expect was the community of you guys. So hats off to you guys. Hit the thumbs up. Yes. Brentissimo, thank you for the super chat. He says, I was badly burned in my marriage. After divorce, I came to realize that I was naive and I failed to demonstrate self-respect. Working on those things. Good for you, man. This is the tricky thing. When you're young and naive, it has a lot to do with luck. If you happen to come across a person where you're both naive enough that you're good people, you can learn to be open and accommodate each other, and then you can still be close. But when you get older, when you're middle-aged and older like me, I'm very particular. I can't just be with an agreeable, nice, decent, respectable, civil person, right? I've had a couple of those in the past, but it just doesn't work. I can't get the depth of friendship and intimacy I do with the other people in my life that kind of plug into the specificity of who I am, right? So it gets harder. When you're younger, the neuroplasticity of your relationship is such that you can naively grow and accommodate each other. Whereas if, for instance, a lot of these couples that get together when they're younger, which actually that's a case for actually being honest and having good morals and character when you're young, even if you're naive, you're going to treat the other person with a bit of patience and accommodate them much more than when you're older. You get much more stubborn and set in your ways because you become a more specific person. So there's a case for two naive, well-meaning, polite, good moral people getting together when they're younger, and they can accommodate each other and they can learn to love and be with each other. But when you get older, that's less and less the case. And when you get people who are burnt when they're younger and they form stories, even if those stories aren't accurate, that's even worse. They get more specific in a much more myopic kind of religious fashion, like women, men, all men are this, all women are that, I don't trust anyone. And the best that they can do in life is to hold relationships at arm's length so they're 90% safe, and they try and have deep, loving relationships by only ever risking 10% of themselves. And for me, that's kind of a bit sad, but then sometimes understandable. If a guy tells me, well, I've been through X, Y, and Z, human, and it's like, well, yeah, look, man, I get you. If you're comfortable with that and you can't give any more than 10%, if you're honest about it with a girl, because like you could meet someone who's been burnt as well, and you're both on the same page. Yeah, we want to have a part-time relationship, and this is as much as we can give it. As long as you're honest, I respect you. But this covertness of not being honest with yourself, what you want, and lying to other people to get them to give you like 30% more and you're only going to give 10. And then if they give me 50% more, then maybe I'll go up to 30. We'll see. I think as adults, we intuitively know when we're giving much more than the other person. I know as I get older, honesty is the predominant thing. If I'm just not going to let it all out and be 100% honest, show who I am, and insist that they do the same, it is not going to work. I can't be naive, hold my tongue, all that stuff when you're young and just be polite. You can luckily, as I said, get along with someone and maybe grow into a respectable kind of old-fashioned love, even if you didn't really reveal the virtues. But when you get older, it just needs to be all about loving the virtue in the person, and that can only happen if you're honest. Because how are you going to trust them over time? How? You can't. Like I said this to someone on Discord this week, in terms of this trust issue, right? In terms of this issue here. If, like, a lot of guys I've just met online and they've consistently shown me respect, we can talk, they've never kind of flipped on a dime. I would, if I was traveling and if they were, I would be happy for them to stay, and they'd always have a bed to sleep on in my home. And it's that consistency of not just friendship, but a person showing you who they are. I just got a message. Someone gave a donation through PayPal. Thanks, Shoda Ray. I appreciate it. Christian says, honesty takes courage. Need to stop dating a girl I met into 2 months ago. Yeah. And it's a liberating relief when it's like, I am just going to be honest. I human refuse to lie to myself anymore. And when you refuse to lie to yourself as a first and foremost principle, and it's hard, you still step into your old ways. I'm not saying you're perfect, but it gets easier the more you exercise that as a first principle. I don't lie to myself. I don't lie to myself. I don't lie to myself. And so then when you're, like I said before, you get all that fear, not wanting to go to the dentist. It's like, don't lie to yourself. Do it. It's the right thing to do. What's the right thing to do? Don't lie. What's the right thing to do? Obviously, don't be taken advantage of. Be sensible. Earn trust. Blah, blah, blah. Do all the things you would really respect in an elder. This guy lives the right way. When he speaks, I listen. I respect him. Why? Because of how he conducts himself. Be like that to yourself. Talk to yourself like the best mentor you've ever heard, or try to. Even if, yeah, okay, it's a mental exercise, but it's better that way than just saying, oh, I'm an idiot. I screwed up again. I'm a loser. It's like, what are you going to get out of life being like that? What's constructive? If two things being equal, talking to yourself badly or talking to yourself like the wisest mentor possible and trying to have that as a standard, if both things being equal, why wouldn't you choose the latter? Anyway, this question, can you trust her on birth control? As Feral Android says, if you can't, you shouldn't probably be with the person, especially if you're saying you love the person. And if you're not comfortable, you should, again, that honesty, if you really love someone, you should be able to say, look, I have a problem with it. I want to see you take birth control. I want to see proof over time. And then maybe one day I'll get over it because you've earned my trust. But until then, and if they get offended, F them. Jennifer says, do women lie? She's being sarcastic. But she just wanted to pose the question as a woman in the comment section that yes, women do lie. Jay says, my girlfriend of 7 months is on the pill and she has an alarm set for it and has always taken it in front of me since we switched over from condoms. I only have to worry about trusting the pill. Brilliant. See? She obviously loves and respects you, especially if you go about it and approach the topic in a mature way. If she flips out, that's a harbinger of things to come in anything she doesn't like. And are you going to submit to any time she flips out? Remember, it's your life too. It's not just hers. Nadine says, thank you, Nadine, for the super chat donation. She says, men need to learn to treat themselves like they're a treat, like they treat a best friend, but most men don't value themselves, which is why they suffer so much in relationships. I agree. And your friendships will, with your actual friends, I would say will be refined to the better if you treat yourself as one of those friends. You're part of one of the friends in your friendships that you value. You are part of one of the two people in a relationship when you're trying to love somebody. Michael H says, STDs and pregnancy are always a risk, always. As sad as it is, condoms are common sense. I've had many relationships and often trusted my partner, but it was a lot of stupidity involved on my side. General Butt Naked says, while the issue of trust will vary from one woman to the next, if you don't want children, you should be the person that takes measures to prevent the possibility happening. Yes. The trust issue is always going to be a secondary consideration to personal responsibility as far as I'm concerned. Yes. Especially, I can't believe, like, love it, trying to show you love women want, like, the ends of the world. They want you to marry them right from the first date. They're not reasonable about it. So trust takes time. And if a person blackmails you and demands that you trust them, that is not a person you want in your life, I would say. So you need to be responsible for the trust you have and the risks you're taking. You can't just say, well, she demanded it. It's like, why did you submit to it? The trust issue is always going to be secondary consideration to the personal responsibility. Yes, I agree. Iron Yuppie says, thinking about it further, if you don't want a child with the woman you're sleeping with, if you wouldn't be full of joy if she told you she was pregnant, if you're embarrassed or worried, ashamed to have a child with her, why you were sleeping with her? I would disagree with this because I myself really want the partner. I've never wanted to be a father. It was never about, if the right person came along, I would. I am just not father material. I don't have that switch in me. I've often joked, I really understand when someone asks a gay guy, like, you don't like women, you don't want to have a traditional. It's like, no, I don't have that switch. I feel like I understand the gay guy from a heterosexual guy's point of view. I just don't have that hard wiring. Look, everything else, I'm much more kind of like, I can see that in that context. But with children, it's just like radio silence. Like, I don't get it. I get it objectively from observation, biology, reproduction. I get it. From a personal point of view, no. You might as well ask me, why don't I have a gay relationship? And a gay guy could be telling me all the benefits, and it's like, I know, like, yeah, that sounds logical to me, but no, sorry, I can't. Like, the hairs on my back stand up when I think about a guy touching me in that way or getting close with a man. Well, you haven't met the right guy. Like, no, it's not. I'm not wired that way. I'm the same way with having kids. I kind of, and a woman forcing that on me, like, I would do everything. I would go to jail. I would, like, burn my money. I would not give anything. Like, I would feel betrayed. That is not me. I would feel like if a woman betrayed me like that, that would be like tying an anchor to my legs and, like, just throwing me into the sea. It's like, yeah, if you're gonna kill my life, I'm going down with it. Like, and I'm taking your attitude and your betrayal with me. You're gonna get back exactly what you gave. That's justice for me. I'm an open and reasonable guy, and if the person's like that, that's why, like, it takes a lot for me to trust a person. That guy Pete, you refuse to invite to gatherings. Pete's got a lot of good comments. Go check out his channel. He's a great thinker about these things. I like how he thinks in a very normal, he talks about these issues in a very intelligent, pedestrian way. Not necessarily, there are a lot of people that talk about these issues a lot more academically intelligent, but he's sort of got this really nice balance of between the academic and the pedestrian. So that guy Pete says, I would say in most cases, no, you can't just take someone at their word. But like all things, the people you do trust are very few in number. And if your partner is one of those few people you trust, I would imagine you'd be with them for a very long time. I agree. But like all matters of trust, there's this gut feeling that tells you if you can't trust, that if you can or can't trust them. If something doesn't feel right, it's because it probably isn't. It's probably not. This is the thing that I wish more guys would keep in mind. Trust your gut. Too many guys like, no, women do feelings, we do logic. But when in relationships, if you only do logic, you are at the mercy of women who trust their feelings and are used to dancing with their feelings, and they exercise their feelings and they manage their feeling, not always well, but they're conversant with their feelings better than we are. Men would do a lot better if we're more comfortable with looking at our feelings head on and conversing with them philosophically like I do. Don't converse with them emotionally like women do, but philosophically, you will be able to conduct yourself with your instincts and your emotions much better in life. So when a woman says to you, oh, how do you feel about this? You know exactly how to say it because you're philosophically engaging with your feelings. And that's a much more practical and pragmatic way to go about things. Don't just think of feelings as what women do. Own your feelings as a guy philosophically and make sense of them. Time of Dying says, I always ask if she's on birth control, and if the answer is yes, then your reflexive next thing to say should be, show me. Yeah. SS says, random girl at a bar or from an app? Never. You don't trust them. Girlfriend from a couple of months? Kinda. But arm's length, and be very, very sensible and practical. Because remember, it's your life here. Wife for 10 years? Should be absolutely. With no exceptions. If they agree or are part of the rainbow people, then you got more issues to worry about. I mean, it goes without saying. Like, again, like when some people say you should make a video about this, I'm thinking that should go without saying. I think that's kind of, I'm talking in a much more, a person who has got much more self-reflection and ownership than that. But if you go on a first date and you think, oh, this girl is someone I'd go out with, and she's kind of like a girl power chick, and she's part of the community that sort of makes up stuff, it's like, yeah, good luck setting any foundations with that self-entitled person. Dobby from Harry Potter says, I found out the hard way. This is about trusting someone completely. She thought that would make me want to be her boyfriend. So you weren't even in a relationship or a boyfriend-girlfriend. She sperm jacked you, and she thought that would make you want to love her. I don't get some of the, like, I do get it because they're the lemmings out there. But that just goes to show the diametric opposite of the people I wouldn't even spend time with. I wouldn't even go on a date. I would vet a person hopefully a bit more. And I'm not sort of putting you down, Dobby. It happens to the best of us. And it certainly happened to me when I was younger. But I'd imagine there's some guys that are my age and they still date via the same methods and the same mindset as they did when they were in their naive youth. Man, Richie says, depends on the woman. The smart ones don't want to casually get pregnant. I got a vasectomy exactly for the reason of not having a casual fling rule my life. Good for you for knowing. I wish I would have done it when I was younger as well. Nyla says, bro, I'm 23 and I got a vasectomy 5 days after my 22nd birthday. Hell no, I don't trust them. And Yola said, thanks for the info. I'm also 23 and plan on getting snips soon. This is amazing to me, and I'm not saying guys are wrong, but women don't pay attention. It's not just that men don't want to marry them, don't want to have anything to do with them, don't trust them, won't even get intimate. The most primal, basic thing between human beings, the reason why we're here, we touch each other. There's that closeness, that intimacy. No one wants to do it. No wonder there's a lot of depression. Like, no one feels anything anymore. You don't engage with life. It is both sad, but I get it. I get it 100%. The fact that guys at their reproductive prime, the start of their life at 22 and 23, are 100% sure they're going to get surgery and they're not going to have kids anymore. And because they don't trust women. they're not going to have it because they don't trust women. Some of them might want it if women were better, but the cost benefit was just like too ridiculous. That is very telling, and it just shows, like, when we don't care about guys' issue, it just kind of shows, well, you can shame guys, but if guys get to the point where they're the horniest in their early 20s and they're 100% sure, no, I'm doing it, I don't trust women. If you can't trust someone, you can't love them. Men don't love you, ladies. They don't trust you, they don't love you. In my day, and guys older than me, we trusted women to a large degree before we even got to know their personality. There was this, women didn't hate guys. Now they don't not only hate guys, and you kind of see the marketing and the gloating and the girl power, it's like, why wouldn't a guy do this? I'm not saying you should, but like, he doesn't trust them. He's always the bad guy. And he has to live, he can be Superman, but that's even just the baseline to get those, the 20%, sorry, what is it, the 80% of women. The baseline is to be Superman in most women's eyes. It's ridiculous. But society and women don't care. Their one-trick pony is shame. Loser, try harder. Oh, you loser, you got a vasectomy. Yeah, I did. I'm done. Ah, loser, LOL. Well, enjoy your single life on Instagram. Have you seen some of the videos of these supposedly like happy, perfect teeth, smiling Instagram models, and then they do a video a couple of years later where they just can't stand it anymore, and they're like, their mascara's running, and all these guys that have had vasectomies and have done with women is like, I don't care. But don't you care? I'm crying now. I've learned my lesson. Don't care. Sorry. I don't hate you. It's this neutral, I left you. I untied my rope from your peer. It's like, yeah, but there's no buts. Sorry. Consequences. I know. I'm not happy about it. I don't want to see anyone unhappy. But I want to see myself happy. If you're a good person, I want to see you happy. And if the best way to do it is to get rid of bad people in your life, which I'm sure we'll all agree, a lot of guys are getting rid of bad people in their life, which is women. Most women out there, the women in their demographic, these young guys, most of the women in their age group, they hold up Kim Kardashian as a role model. Why wouldn't you get a vasectomy with that as your role model? You look at the women on Fresh and Fit. Why wouldn't I get a vasectomy? I mean, the guys are usually the same as the women, but you know what I mean. Like, I hate to be a guy dating today in my youth. All right, guys, any final questions? If there isn't, let's wrap it up. We'll head for the finish line. Okay. Okay. Some comments under a couple of videos recently. Dragon Root under my recent video, he says, graphic designers in cars. That's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek to Richard Cooper's Entrepreneurs in Cars, if the rest of you don't know. It's an in-joke. Jimmy V says, under my video, are men equally responsible for having kids? The last video. I only disagree with the part where you said people aren't having as much sex. On the contrary, women are having more sex than ever, but only the top 20% of men are getting it. This is the result of online dating Tinder, where women have been granted the ability to be more selective with their partners than ever before. The 80% of men, on the other hand, are borderline sexless. I'm talking in general. The human population is having far less sex. Yeah, women are having more sex than women previously, but it's they're having sex with the top 20% of men. Yeah, I was talking on aggregate. Sunflower says under the video, women's stories are like this. That one. Good scenes all stitched together. Yes, like Instagram, Tumblr, Pinterest. Those are women's stories. Women's stories are fake. You look at how they lie and manipulate each other. Their curated lives on their social media feeds are fake or they're hoping for their lives to be like this simply because they can illustrate it in a beautiful picture. Look, I made it. I'm one step closer to making this reality. You didn't. You painted a picture. You wrote in your diary about your dreams. That's all you did, in the form of a photo or a reel or something. But you're not actually talking where you are and how you're going to change to get what you want. You're talking Oprah in the form of pictures and videos. Just believe. Just animate yourself like you're happy and happiness will happen. No, you're faking it. You're lying. You're advertising falsely. Lone Samurai, thank you for the super chat donation. He says, if you don't trust her for good or bad reasons, get a doll. Get a doll these days. Their eyes have more life than the real. Avoids complications of surgery. That's another option. Whatever you might say, a lot of guys are getting dolls. You don't need to get a vasectomy. If that's all you want, and she'll never leave you. And what are women going to say? Shame you? Oh, loser. You got a doll. A lot of dolls are better than most women out there. I'll be the first one to say. What's your comeback? Here's one I'd say to women who kind of trying to shame men who have dolls. Why are so many men going to dolls now? Oh, because they're losers. Why is a doll a piece of plastic, like a simulacra, a plastic simulacra that's, you know, not a real thing? Why is it 10 times better than you? Why are you 10 times worse than a doll? I would shame it back. Like, why are guys getting... Oh, because they're... No, not losers. Why would he choose that and not you? Why don't you have some qualities? Like, why are you better than a doll? Tell me. I'm waiting. Aside, like, because these guys who have dolls, yeah, it's the sex, but it's also they have better relationships with them. It's kind of manufactured. I get it, but they're more comfortable with it. It makes more sense to them. It's more reliable. It's more consistent. They can build something. And you can shame them and say it's not real. And yeah, I wouldn't. But in terms of the quality of life and them not being able to get women or having had enough of women, I would say to a girl, tell me why you're better. And don't just say, because I'm better in bed. I can move and whatever, right? Take that off the table. What qualities do you have aside from speaking? Because sometimes like these women, when they speak, it's like better if they just shut up. Tell me what qualities positive qualities that you could say that is better than this guy's sex style. And it's like, I'm waiting and all you hear is crickets. They don't have any good qualities. Aside from trying to shame a guy. But that would be a question, really. All you empowered women, why are guys just choosing dolls more than you? Why is a doll preferable to the real thing? I can see it. I would much more support these guys because a lot of them, I've talked to one or two guys who've chosen the doll and they're much more sensible than these women who shame men. That are the exact reason why men have had enough and just gone to dolls or can't get the 80% of women because you're not sort of part of the 20% of men that they want. So anyway, guys, let's head towards the finish line. If there's no more questions, because we've been going for nearly an hour and a half now. Any more? I think I've responded to the super chats. Let's see if there's any more. Yeah. Schlitzmaltz Liquor. Oh, he's left, I think. Black Wizard says, Human, what is your opinion on women who complain about their lives and continue to live them? Well, you don't have to listen to them. There's a difference between someone who's complaining about their lives, but you could tell they're adjusting the dials to better them. They're at least trying, they're acknowledging, but it's different from the people that just complain and wish that magically the world would just change for them. Digi says, human, would you go on Fresh and Fit? I don't see the point. Um, from the videos I've watched, I don't think I could have a discussion with them. They're very I think they enjoy debating more than I do. I don't enjoy debates. I enjoy conversations much more. And especially like once or twice I've seen them have um, they pick bimbos to go on the shows, but every once in a while they'll pick women who have a bit of brains or a bit of common sense. And whenever the women say, well, in terms of just moral behavior, when you say you can do this but a woman can't, that's nothing to do with the differences between the genders. That's just moral differences. How can you justify that? That's basically fairness. And their response is, well, men and women are different. I can do this and you can't, or you have to do this and I don't have to. It's like I can't really have a philosophical exchange, a conversation that way. So it's kind of, I think, yeah, I don't see the point. A couple of people that I could have a conversation with and I do respect more have been on the show, but I don't really see the point. I don't really think it'd be a very good discussion. They would probably, yeah, I don't think their audience would really get me. I wouldn't provide much value for their show. Karu, was this me being polite again? What is it? Elegantly not offended. Elegantly whatever. Okay, guys. Any last questions? Let's wrap it up. Any last questions or super chats? And then I'm done. Tokyo Traveler says, and the doll won't use you just to get an expensive dinner at a restaurant. Feral Android. Uh, it's a quote from a song, but it's true. It speaks volumes. What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Can you trust the person not to hurt you? Capo42 says, you'd be surprised, human. You would be well received on Fresh and Fit. You think so? Whenever I see clips of how they speak and who they're talking to, who they have on the show, I just don't think I would be a good guest. And I don't know how good the exchange would be. I have seen, I saw Better Bachelor on there. I respect him. I like him. Rollo Tomasi was on there. He speaks well about this kind of stuff. Things that I sort of don't have as much interest in, but in terms of like it, really sensible advice to guys, he's pretty solid. But generally, like the people I've seen on the show, and then also you'd have to be there on the microphone as well. I don't live in the US. I'm in Australia, and I'm not going to the US just to be on a show like that. They're in Florida, aren't they? Rando Calrissian. That's a good name. How can a man know a woman is sincere and loyal? Time. Observing how she acts and actually paying attention. But also you have to be interested enough in your own values and staying aware of that kind of stuff. You can't just kind of go, where's the rule book, how I can trust a woman? You have to trust yourself to be able to trust a woman by your standards. What are your standards? Up to you. Behave yourself, Nadine. It looks like people are warning you. Nadine, I'm assuming you're a female. Yeah, Karu was right. Why are there so many women who love bestiality? It's like, it's weird. It's really, really weird. Like, men are awful. Dogs, yeah, you know. Oof. All right, guys and gals. I actually said this to Boffin the other day because he often says he'll drop in the word gal. He'll say, I went out with this gal once in the past, and I really kind of whenever I hear someone say gal, it makes me think of the times where men and women actually liked each other. They smiled. I'm just picturing like a woman smiling at a guy and a guy smiling at a girl, and that sort of really nice behavior between the two. Whenever I hear, because people don't use the word gal, it's probably offensive to sort of the redheads out there. I'm talking about the falsely dyed redheaded feminists. But yeah, gal just kind of evokes an image where guys like girls, girls like men back. The current generations, you missed out on some nice times of just being with a person without all of this politics. Santa says, have you looked at other cultures' philosophies about long-term relationships, such as India or China? Not really, but it doesn't surprise me that a lot of countries have different terms for loving a person compared to loving a thing. I think Italian or Old Italian, I've heard, is similar. Like they don't use the word amore, like love, like that sort of love to a person with things. They have a different term for loving something else, but amore is really directed at the person that you love, like a girlfriend, wife, husband, that kind of thing. And the way in which they see things wouldn't surprise me from different cultures. Yeah. The West has a lot to learn. We've commodified and commercialized a lot of it, and I can see why they did it intentionally. All right, guys. Like, subscribe, become a member, and if you have a microphone, jump on Discord after this stream and have a chat with a whole bunch of us. Remember to give people space to talk and be respectful. Don't yell over each other and stop interrupting all the time. It's harder when there's more people on there, I get it. But yeah. Rocket Scientist says China and India are #1 and #2 on infidelity. Look it up. Oh, really? Would that also have to do with the population, Rocket Scientists, more than the morals? But then again, they kind of, don't they say, what's that principle? I always forget the name of it, where like a population, once it exceeds 100, starts unraveling. So the more people in the community, in the tribe, then the more dysfunctional it becomes. Like 100 is the sweet spot in terms of human beings, and like a really good balance, which doesn't surprise me when you kind of move more to the country. It's not just that you've got a bit more distance to people, but less people sort of starts to direct itself to that sort of more, within the 100 in that community sort of thing. Whereas when you're living on top of each other in apartment blocks in the city, I can see why it just becomes dysfunctional, like human relationships. You get a lot more comfort and convenience, but you'd better hope you get something for the lack of human cooperation and interaction. All right, people, like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Hope you enjoyed the videos. Comment below. Be part of the community tab as well. And I'll catch some of you on Discord for a chat after this. Be good. And yeah, catch you later. Bye.